Welcome back. So now we've done multiplication and division. So now we're going to move on to addition and subtraction. Now here, addition and subtraction take a little bit different skill set. Okay, so I want you to remember when you're adding and subtracting, the key is you need the same thing in the top or in the bottoms, okay? You need what's called a common denominator. If you don't have that, well, then we have some more work to do. But in this lesson, the point is just to remind you that you need those common denominators. So look here, x plus 6, x plus 6. So we do have a common denominator. So what that means is all we have to do is simply add the tops together, and then we keep that common denominator. All right? And again, you've seen this skill before. You did this back in elementary school with fractions. Well, now you're doing it with fractions that just happen to have variable expressions. Okay, but again, the key is adding and subtracting. You need common denominators. And then, once you do that, sometimes you'll be able to simplify. So in this case on top, the top actually factors. So you can cross that off and actually just get an answer of 3. So that's another thing is once you do the addition or subtraction, sometimes, just sometimes, you'll be able to factor and cancel. Now, more often than not, you won't be able to, but I do just want you to be aware and I want you watching for the cases for when you can, when it is appropriate to factor and cancel. Here again, I want you to note we have common denominators. So because we have the same denominator, all that means is we can subtract the tops, and then the bottom stays the same. We keep that common denominator. Now in this case, nothing cancels, or nothing factors, so nothing cancels, and we actually just get to leave it as is. All right, so in this case, this is as far as we can take it. Let's take a look at our next one. So again, I want you to note that we have common denominators. So that denominator is going to stay the same. And now we simply add the tops. So we have x plus 1 plus x plus 3. Well, x plus x gives me 2x. 1 plus 3 gives me 4. Now here's another one of those cases where now a 2 actually pulls out on top. I can pull a 2 out of both terms. And so in this case, it's one of those rare cases I can actually factor then end up canceling. So my answer ends up just being 2. So again, don't be afraid to make sure just you're remembering our old factor cancel method when appropriate. All right, this one, again, notice common denominators. So we have that x plus 4 on the bottom. Now here, I do want you to be very, very careful. All right, so here we have 2x. Now when we're subtracting that x plus 6, when you're subtracting, I need you to remember that subtraction sign applies to both things. So that is really a 2x minus x minus 6 on the top. So that's the biggest thing to remember in this section is you need to distribute that negative throughout the numerator. Okay, but once you've done that, 2x minus x is x. We have that minus 6, x plus 4, And that is as far as we can take it this time. Okay? But just don't forget that negative applies to everything in that second fraction. That's a very, very simple mistake to make. All right? Otherwise, this one is pretty straightforward because all you're doing is starting with an already common denominator. So all you're having to do is add and subtract the numerators. All right, so once again, thank you for joining me, and please make sure you ask any questions if you have any.